Welcome to the No Camps Podcast. I'm Sonny G.
I'm Akash.
I'm Jason. And here on the No Camps Podcast, we talk about movies, television, and other various topics. And today we're going to be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And we're talking about Star Wars, but it really brings up a question that is really the bane of Sonny's existence, and it's whether or not this is a reboot or a remake. And someone like Sonny might think it's a remake. Some of us might think it's just a continuation of a franchise. But that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so I wanted to start off by really talking about A New Hope, because that's really, I mean, even though Sonny likes to joke about it, it is a direct parallel to A New Hope, and I think everybody kind of sees that. So in doing these movies, this new trilogy moving forward, seeing if The Last Jedi might match up with Empire Strikes Back, we want to kind of keep the old trilogy in mind as we look forward. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about A New Hope. So I want to hear your guys' general thoughts, reactions to A New Hope. I mean, there's really not a whole lot that we can add to any type of analysis of that movie. It's been fawned over for the last 40 years. But what do you guys think about the movie? How do you guys feel about it as the first Star Wars movie?
So I never watched... So I was born in 89, and I never got to watch Star Wars, obviously, when they came out. And I think the time I first heard about Star Wars was right when the special edition VHS tapes were released. But before Phantom Menace, I think definitely before it was released, but I think also possibly before it was even announced. And I remember not thinking too much of it. Like I think I liked it more than I would have because everybody else liked it and was like, "Oh, Star Wars, so awesome," you know. So like even the hype was alive back then, right? As much as we're annoyed by it now, I'm sure people were annoyed by it back then. And then I think as we grew up with the prequels, I just came to really like the Star Wars universe a lot. And then as I've gotten older, A New Hope doesn't like. I think it's good. It's between good and great, but it's not. I wouldn't like it as much had I not grown up with the prequels. I'll say that.
So how old were you when you saw A New Hope?
The first time that I can consciously remember watching it beginning to end and understanding everything that was going on was probably high school. But I had definitely seen bits and pieces of it all throughout my childhood, like either at a friend's house or just passing by on TV or something like that.
So it still was like the introduction to Star Wars for you, the original trilogy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm pretty well, actually, it's possible that I saw Phantom Menace in its entirety before I ever saw A New Hope or anything like that.
Oh, wow.
But that would have been like when I was really young. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think I really appreciated Star Wars until I was late middle school, early high school, and watched them. And this was all anticipation of Attack of the Clones and then Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's like a very solid movie. The music, awesome. The acting, great. Dialogue is probably the thing that doesn't hold up all too well. It's just kind of really corny, but the story is awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, George Lucas is just not the greatest writer, but as far as telling the story, he's pretty damn good. So that's how I feel about A New Hope.
Gosh.
Yeah, Sonny, you make some pretty good points there. I didn't grow up on Star Wars either. Like Sonny, I was born in '89, and I think one of the first times I watched Star Wars was with Sonny. So I never really grew up on it. Like I just never had an understanding of what Star Wars meant to pop culture and nerd culture growing up, and I got to experience it, I guess, as a movie for the first time, either in junior high or high school. I don't really remember. But to me, Star Wars, the idea, I've said this before, is more interesting than the overall execution of the movies. To expand, like Sonny said, A New Hope is a good movie. It's a solid movie, but it doesn't like get me extremely excited. As a movie, as a concept, it's really cool. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and this Luke Skywalker saga is great. But I think we might have pretty much reached the limits of this Skywalker saga with these movies. But sorry, that's jumping ahead. To come back to A New Hope, like Sunny said as well, the story is okay for me. It's nothing too original or too out there. It's got your standard hero, orphaned, has to, go out and explore the universe, gets pulled onto an adventure, and then jumps onto a situation that's bigger than him, and then ends up finding out that he's more connected to it than he originally thought. So in that sense, A New Hope is good. You know what I mean? I don't really geek out too hard over Star Wars. It's a very solid movie.
Yeah, I mean, good points. I was, I mean, I agree that like the story is not like too original. It's really like the universe around it that's original, and the way he kind of like brings you into the story. I think that's really original about Star Wars. The dialogue is pretty awful, and I would argue that the acting is also pretty awful. Like it doesn't really hold up that well, and I don't think it was that great to begin with. I mean, no one ever like reminisces about the great acting and performances in Star Wars. It's the story and the lightsabers and the Force and all the elements that created this expansive, growing universe that people can and could fawn over for all these years. And I watched this movie when I was pretty young. I was like, I think it was like in 3rd grade or 4th grade, and I remember I watched them all in a row. And I watched the first one like at night, and I stayed up like all the way through the night watching all 3 of them. And I mean, I loved them. A really close friend of mine, he was really into Star Wars. He kind of introduced me. Like when we were kids, I'd go to his house. He had like a Darth Vader like helmet that you could attach that like velcroed onto your head, which was like super cool. And we would watch like parts of Star Wars at his house. But I watched them like 3 straight in a row before the prequels. And I think people who like me who did that, and like we were introduced like at a young age with the first trilogy. To me, I don't really feel like ownership over Star Wars like I think a lot of fans do, or people who would call themselves like Star Wars fans. I have no real like expectations for the movies, or feel like these movies or this universe owes me anything, or owes any more depth than what it already is. Yeah. I just love the ride, and it all kind of started with this movie. And the idea that these few people, this kid from this remote desert planet, can make huge impacts in the whole universe, and I think that's what makes a story so like lovable. And I mean, I really like the movie. I mean, it's a classic movie, and it introduced me to one of my favorite franchises. And I mean, we'll get into A New Hope or Force Awakens now, but I didn't mind the parallels to A New Hope, just because I just love the story, and it really started with this movie. So I guess we can just kind of dive into. We want to really go through Force Awakens and just talk about pieces of the movie, how we feel about that, and really how it all fits into Star Wars and into the universe, and kind of looking forward to Last Jedi. How do we feel this is a part 1 of this new trilogy, right?
Do you want to give us thoughts about Force Awakens before we start?
Yeah. So I want to hear. I really want to hear Sonny's, but I want to hear your thoughts about just the movie and your expectations going in, and what you were kind of hoping, because this is really a trilogy that is kind of on uncharted territory. We don't really know what's going to happen here. It's not any character. I mean, we have familiar characters, but the main characters are not characters that we really know. So I want to really hear what you thought it was going to be before you went in.
Who are you? I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing, but I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true.
What I was expecting was the beginning of a trilogy of like Luke, but more about Luke than anybody else, really. Luke as the Obi-Wan character. I was expecting a story that involved Han and Leia's child or children becoming Force users, being trained by Luke, and then like Luke fucking up. I wasn't expecting a character like Rey, or if there was one, she would either be like a Luke's or Leia's kid. Yeah, and what we got was a heaping pile of what's the word? Fan pander fodder. Yeah, man. Within 3 minutes, I think the first line Oscar Isaac speaks to Kylo Ren, I was like, no, this is not the Star Wars movie I was looking for. No joke. We can get into the details of everything I didn't like about it, but I was severely disappointed because I was expecting something that moved the story forward instead of just selling us a new story.
Right. Going into this movie, honestly, I had really no expectations. Like Sunny, I assumed that this would just pick up where the Return of the Jedi left off, or we might see Luke's story more. Just maybe pick up off Luke and follow him in on an adventure or something like that. But besides that, I really had no expectations. Didn't really read too much, like press or rumor mills on what the story was going to be. Just kind of went into the movie blind. And objectively, like if this movie were just in a vacuum and you considered it on its own without any of the prequels, I know it's not realistic to do that, but if you were to, it's a very good, serviceable movie. I mean, it's a beautiful film, has plenty of action. It's very fun to watch. You're never really bored. And the characters are interesting for the most part. But once you know that it's pretty much a remake of A New Hope, all that praise goes out the window, and then you just kind of get angry and you kind of feel like, well, fuck, we just got a rehash of what we've already seen, but it's shinier. So all in all, I mean, this movie might be one of the biggest disappointments of 2015 when it came out. So
yeah, I mean, I really didn't know what to expect going in either. I mean, I just assumed it was going to be, like you guys said, the main character is going to be the children of the main characters in the last trilogy, and that's good. It's kind of turning out to be true. Yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations. I mean, I just wanted to see a good guy and a bad guy, and I wanted to see the good guy beat the bad guy, and so I got that, I guess. But you guys are right. Like, the more you really think about this movie, and the more you think about how it is A New Hope, it starts to diminish a bit. I love this movie when it came out, and I put it like one of my favorite Star Wars movie. And the more and more I watch it, like the lower it falls down that ranking. But it is like you said, Akash. There's a lot of cool stuff to the movie that we really needed to see. So it kind of went back to the practical effects, like the original trilogy. It had the look and the feel of the original trilogy. Again, which is contributing to why it just feels like A New Hope rehashed again. But those were the elements that, at least the direction I wanted to see Star Wars go in. I didn't want it to be CG heavy like the prequels, because even though this movie is kind of aging with time, the prequels really aged poorly. Like, they're hard to watch at times. They're fun because we grew up on them, but they're pretty bad movies and full of CGI. So yeah, I mean, it is a lot like A New Hope. I do like the characters and stuff, but yeah, it doesn't age well. But all in all, I mean, it's a decent ad. Well, okay, so where would you rank it?
Of all like 7 main story Star Wars
like
movies.
the saga series or whatever you want to call it.
I think so. Phantom Menace is the worst, and Attack of the Clones is second worst. I'd put this third worst, and then Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Empire, or A New Hope, and then Empire, or A New Hope, Revenge, and then Empire from 3, 2, 1. That would be my ranking.
Return of the Jedi is worse than Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
Wow.
Because Return of the Jedi, if you really think about it, if you really watch it, that was when George Lucas sold out, quote unquote. Like the Ewoks. I was going to say something very non-PC. The Ewoks are bad characters and character elements in that movie. And I like pretty much I think the only redeeming quality of that movie is the duel between Luke and Darth Vader in front of the Emperor. But I don't want to.
Sick.
Yeah, I don't want to go
into that.
Yeah.
If I had to rank it, man, I don't know. Obviously, I mean, A New Hope, Empire. I might even put Revenge of the Sith. Is that number 3 in the franchise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I put this might be up there with Revenge of the Sith, 3A, 3B.
Yeah.
Then the Return of the Jedi, Clone Wars, and then Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I generally agree with you, Akash, on that. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Just be lazy. Yeah, I don't want to actually go through. That sounds good. Sounds all right.
Yeah.
All right, let's kind of get into it a little bit.
Awesome.
All right, so now we're going to go a little bit deeper into the movie. So Sunny's going to kind of walk us through some of the high-level points of the scenes.
Yeah. I'll go through watching the movie on fast forward, and I'll just touch on all the scenes and get people's opinions about them. So the movie begins on a desert planet called Jakkuin. And the shot opens up with this old guy talking to Oscar Isaac. We learn that this old guy has no personality and won't be very important since we don't learn his name, and that he has a piece of the map that'll lead to Luke Skywalker. The place gets overrun by the First Order. We get introduced to an anonymous stormtrooper who refuses to brutally murder all of the people in the village, including the old guy, which, I mean, who cares, right? Because we don't even really know his name. And the scene ends with Oscar Isaac getting captured. And when the ship lands back at the Star Destroyer, you see Finn take off his mask and look very startled.
Right.
So that's the beginning.
To, I guess, this new trilogy's version of Darth Vader, a guy with a lightsaber in a black cloak and mask and everything. So
yeah, the reason I forgot about Kylo Ren is because he's incredibly forgettable. So sorry, I forgot to mention that. But yes, we're also introduced to Kylo Ren.
Disagree.
Why do you disagree?
I think he's a pretty complex villain, like the most complex villain we have in Star Wars.
I mean, I think teenagers are pretty complex.
Yeah,
all the hormones and whatnot. You know,
Akash, you love coming of age movies. This is kind of his coming of age. It's a coming of age tale of Kylo Ren. How can you not like that? But anyways, well, we'll talk more about that. I was excited by the scene when I saw this. Like It was a good intro. You know, I mean, yeah, it was kind of repeatable having a ship land on a desert planet, but yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was exciting. It has one of the coolest moments of the movie, which is when Kylo Ren stops the laser shot from Poe.
Yeah,
I
thought that was pretty legit.
Yeah,
you got to see some cooler powers than his ridiculous lightsaber. That was cool.
Yeah,
and to me, it was very surprising to see that the stormtroopers weren't clones, right? Or is that established in A New Hope that they're not all clones?
I think so. I mean, I don't know if it's explicitly established, but I mean, you see them with different height, different voices. So I'm pretty sure it's kind of implied that they're just people.
Gotcha.
We also see another familiar theme. Someone giving a droid a secure piece of data to take and escape with.
Yep.
It's the first conversation between this old guy and Poe Dameron got me worried because I was like, I'm not hearing anything in this that sounds any deeper than just setting context and moving the plot along. Like we have this old guy saying, the something about the Force and only a Jedi, blah blah blah,
Right.
and this'll make things right. Okay, make what right? What was wrong?
Right.
We don't know anything. And then when Kylo Ren sits him down, he immediately like breaks the fourth wall inadvertently by just talking like a normal person. He's like, "Oh, do I talk first? Do you talk? Do I talk?" Like that kind of fucking talk is not, for me, it's not Star Wars. All right, that's just how shitheads talk these days. In real life, and I wasn't expecting to see that in Star Wars. And the minute I saw that, I was like, okay, I get what kind of movie this is. It's not supposed to be true to Star Wars in only but the most superficial senses. But
there's some snarky zingers in Star Wars. There's some snarkiness in those movies. It's not completely void of that. I mean, it's not a great joke. I didn't like it either, but it's not Star Wars though. They try to be funny. That's not Star Wars. I mean, that's ridiculous.
No, but it's when they're joking in the original trilogy. I was gonna say they're classy, but it's not really classiness. It's more like they're just, I don't know. They're being themselves, but in a character that seems much more muted. And not like overflowing with what we would consider to be contemporary personality. Like Han Solo is, and maybe it's because it's just so old and we've grown up with him and gotten really used to him, but Han Solo just seems like a classy guy. He's not James Bond, right? He's not as like pointed of a character as James Bond. He's not like robotic, like Bourne, right? He's just kind of they're almost all blank slate characters, it seems to me. And again, I don't know if that's just because we've grown up with them and we know them so much so that we just understand them so well, or because they were designed that way. Whereas it feels like Oscar Isaac is playing a character. He's like, it's Oscar Isaac playing an Oscar Isaac type character.
Or what he thinks Han Solo is supposed to be like.
Or what he thinks. It's like it's a guy playing what he thinks a cool guy would be like.
Right.
And then what you end up learning is all of that is a mask for actually covering for not having actually developed any real character for any of the characters. Right. Like we get no real backgrounds. All we know are just kind of personality quirks about them. Like Daisy Ridley's mouth is always open. John Boyega always has to repeat himself for emphasis because apparently like his face can't convey the emotion. So he has to reiterate himself to convey a point. Right. It's, and then Leia just looks like she phoned it in the whole time. Leia just looks like a woman who stopped doing coke and was like, all right, I got to be Leia again.
R.I.P. Carrie Fisher.
R.I.P. Carrie Fisher. Yeah. Well, so that's the majority of what I have to say about this movie in a nutshell. But I'll still be sure to entertain you guys by shitting on everything else that I hate.
Yeah, because we're only in the first like 2.5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Shall we continue then?
So yeah,
go ahead.
Okay. So next scene, after we see Kylo take Oscar Isaac, next scene, we are back on Jakku during the day, and we meet Rey. She's scavenging through the spaceship graveyard, which I guess was created as a result of some battle on Jakku years prior. We see that she like scavenges for parts and collects measly food that she can just add water and she can eat it. And then we see her retreat to her fallen AT-AT home, which is so strange because that looks exactly like the shot from A New Hope where C-3PO and R2-D2 are walking through the desert and they see a skeleton of like a sea long-necked creature or something. Then she meets BB-8, rescues him from a bounty trader or something like that, and that's the end of that scene.
It's as if like the name of the franchise isn't enough to recall nostalgia. They have to explicitly steal scenes from A New Hope to help establish the universe all over again. And maybe that was a conscious decision.
It was wholeheartedly a conscious decision
to bring in the new generation of Star Wars fans. So, but why copy it exactly? There's so many ways that you can establish the universe you're in. It's just it's not maybe. It's just lazy storytelling. Yeah,
this movie is predicated on the idea of not taking any risks.
Yes.
George Lucas was about taking risks, as I kind of showed you guys in that video I sent you earlier. Maybe we can link to it in the description or something.
Yeah, put it in the show notes.
But George Lucas takes risks, and this movie was a very calculated non-risk maneuver. Just hit the lowest common denominator, be as non-offensive to anyone as possible, and the easiest way to do that, according to some algorithm, was, hey, let's just remake A New Hope. Mm-hmm. I feel like there could have at least been something original that wasn't so closely tied to any of the previous movies, but maybe that's just wishful thinking.
I think at a high level, that's absolutely true. Again, we're going to go through all this, and it's going to feel like a very similar theme to A New Hope. But I think the details of how they executed it is what's different and what's likable about the movie. First off, the scene with Rey, having an orphan girl, having the girl as a protagonist. It's a trend in Hollywood, and it is kind of cool to have really the female be like the Force user that's going to be in this movie. Also, her intro was awesome. I loved how she was a scavenger, and the scene, it was a beautiful scene, especially in IMAX when you saw it, when she's just like hanging down the ropes inside that huge, fallen ship. It's like touches like that, those intros, it feels slightly different. At a high level, it was an orphan on a desert planet, and it is like lazy writing to some degree. But I think because the universe is so big and expansive, to me, it just feels almost like the story is a cyclical story. And, it is like an orphan on this desert planet that has to learn the Force and defeat evil. And, in a way that's kind of, comforting, especially since they're going to put so much money into this movie. It has to be universally liked, So you see these similar themes, and you want people to recall these Star Wars movies because those were a hit, and this needs to be a hit. Yeah. And there's 3 coming. You say George Lucas took risks. Yeah, because it was the first one. It was A New Hope. There's nothing like it. So, yeah, you could take some risks because it was a little weird. But now it's like a brand. So you have to, fall in line with the brand.
It's funny you say cyclical because the ring theory that they have about George Lucas's storytelling. And long story short, he's got a very complex, ancient storytelling technique, which... if I were to really go into it, it'd be like a college level lecture, but each movie ties into another, and it's like you mentioned, it's very cyclical. So
yeah.
Alrighty. Next 2 scenes are Poe getting tortured, and then Poe getting rescued by Finn. Yeah, again, this is another scene where Poe meets Finn, and shit is just moving along. I guess I don't really have a pointed complaint about it, but
right.
Yeah, I'm not any more interested in what's gonna happen than I was before.
Which is interesting, right? Because it's like the Inside Man escape storyline that they've introduced.
Yeah,
which is different. And it's fun. I think both of these characters on the screen at the same time shows us a lot of fun interactions, and it's got fun moments in the movie.
Yeah, it's definitely reminiscent of that one scene where Han and Luke are escaping and shooting enemy TIE fighters out of the sky.
Right. But wait,
I wonder what gave him that idea.
Yeah.
Well, no, that comes up later. There's a closer parallel to that later.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because they had to double down, right?
Yep.
They're like, we want more witty banter during starship battles with completely inexperienced people. So we're gonna do it twice within the span of 15 minutes.
Well, they're not inexperienced. One's a resistance pilot and one's a stormtrooper. It's not like they just got out on chance. They both have training to some degree.
Okay, fine. Let's see. What else do we see? We see what's her face? Homegirl and BB-8.
Ray.
Right.
Ray, thank you. Avoid selling BB-8, and then we learned that the fat guy she works for is trying to get a hold of that droid on behalf of the First Order.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get some interaction between Kylo and that redheaded guy from Ex Machina.
Yeah, you mean Ron Weasley's brother?
Yeah. Oh, is that also Ron Weasley's brother?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and also Isaac. Jeez, not for like
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah,
he was also an Ex Machina too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mr. Gleason.
Right. Okay. So, do you guys want to add anything? Anything noteworthy of these scenes I mentioned?
Yeah. It is noteworthy that the day before, a full day of scavenging, she could only get a quarter portions, and BB-8, he got however much he offered. We looked it up. It's
60 portions.
60 portions. It's 240 times the amount of portions. That's insane.
Yeah.
And she said no. That's just a crazy move. I mean,
yeah. And what's even crazier is that they have only had like 2 scenes together for a sum total of maybe 2 minutes of on-screen time together to build that strong relationship that would prevent her from selling him to get out of abject poverty.
dude, she used the Force. She knows that he's valuable. She knows,
totally.
and
Maybe,
that's her connection to the outside to get out of this place.
Mhm.
maybe she realizes that this droid's value is worth so much that she could leverage it for more. Maybe she's smarter than you think.
Oh,
all right?
she's bargaining.
Yeah. Come on, give her some credit.
Smart girl. She is a Mary Sue. She's good at everything, including bargaining. She knows how to get the price she wants.
What guys? One thing I will say is, in the intro scenes of Rey, I do love the size and magnitude of the ship that she's scavenging. I love how huge everything seems, and just that scene was really interesting. And if you don't watch the trailers, I don't know if anyone's not seen the trailers, you don't expect to see the reveal that it's Daisy is a girl, or not Rey is a girl, is kind of a surprise because you expect it to be a male protagonist again. But that reveal was pretty cool.
I can't imagine a single person on Earth who hadn't seen the trailer or wasn't forced to watch some part of the trailer.
Because it made such a buzz because it was like a black stormtrooper, and everyone was freaking out about, because the first trailer was just that scene that we're about to get to, where you see Finn just emerge from the shipwreck, and it's just there's nothing. He takes off his helmet, and you're like, whoa!
They're all black. How long have they all been black? Yeah. So next scene then is we see him wake up. He's wandering the desert and catches up with Rey and BB-8 and watches Rey kick some people's asses. Then the First Order rolls up and they escape into the Millennium Falcon and have an epic space battle where somehow she goes from not being able to fly the ship whatsoever to flying clear through a Star Destroyer and performing some sick-ass maneuvers.
For first time. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Just because they didn't want it, they figured they didn't even have time for a training montage, so they would just fast forward it and just jump her skill level from 0 to 11 immediately.
Not only she's a genius, she's an expert pilot, guys.
Yeah.
It's innate with the Force. So
the Swiss Army knife in Star Wars. Great.
I don't understand how convenient they think they can make the plot by having Finn somehow land hundreds of feet away from the TIE fighter, and yet Oscar Isaac not only survives but doesn't run into Finn.
Yeah.
And just somehow makes it off of the planet only to show up briefly later. Just doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe he ejected way earlier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. It's a possibility.
It is a possibility. Let's see. Then next scene is we see Rey somehow become an incredible engineer working on ships she doesn't have a fucking owner's manual for.
Mm-hmm.
And their ship gets intercepted by Han and Chewie.
Oh, Sonny, will say it was very cool when they're running towards a ship when they're escaping from the First Order, and they're heading towards another ship, and it blows up in front of them.
Yeah,
and then
I thought that was pretty interesting.
That was really cool.
That was a good effect, yeah.
And then they had to. Then that's how you get the Millennium Falcon introduced, when they're like, "Oh, guess we'll have to take that heaping junk of a spaceship and escape with that." But that whole
pilot
sequence,
junk!
that sequence was a lot of fun. It was really well done.
It was really well received in the movie theaters, at least in all the theaters that I went to. Everyone loved it when they saw the Millennium Falcon and they knew that was the junk she was referring to. Yeah. Everyone was like applauding in the theaters, that's annoying, but I mean, it did well.
Man. It's the worst.
Let's see. Then, then we get the famous Raptor scene where somehow we learned that Han and Chewie, despite being a fucking former general of the rebellion, despite them having won the fucking war, despite him marrying a goddamn princess of a planet for which she's like the last of her kind, this motherfucker is still swindling people. How has he not learned?
Some people never learn, man.
Some people apparently, never learn.
Yeah.
Then we get these CGI Raptor monsters, which was the most vacuous form of action in this entire movie that people had been lauding for its lack of reliance on CGI and its emphasis on practical effects. Like, this scene was just completely useless, only to set us back 30 years.
Right.
Like, they couldn't even do Han Solo the justice of giving him any fucking growth over the last 30 years. So they just had to thrust us back into the past with some CG crap to keep our eyes busy.
Yep.
And to keep us from thinking too hard about, wait, how the fuck is Han still here 30 years later?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's just, my opinion. Right. So what do you guys think?
No, I mean, this is really, I can't really add to this scene. I mean, it's just it's almost very forgettable.
It's not forgettable because it's so bad. That's the problem. Like,
yeah,
it sucks. This is a terrible, I don't know why this was on the table at all. And they went so great with the practical effects, and then they destroy it by this scene in the middle with these super CG creatures that, it seemed kind of ridiculous.
This is like the Indiana Jones in a refrigerator during a nuclear blast.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But once again, Mary Sue knows how to get into the pipes and close the blaster doors right when it needs to be closed. And
if anything, I will say it's just more character development for Rey. Just she's resourceful and can handle these high tense situations,
I guess.
Yeah.
These Raptors anally rape everyone they get their hands on within 2 seconds of holding them, yet somehow is able to drag Boyega's ass through the ship for like a whole 10 or 15 seconds before Rey saves him. Cool. Okay, next scene then.
Wait, before you go to the next scene, I need to point out something, because you and I kind of watched this movie.
Yeah.
And then I just saw something that I wrote down. Sonny wanted to point out, we watched it, how easy the Millennium Falcon was to steal. It seems so easy. It was just sitting there. And he's right. You're just sitting there. And
doors open, keys in the ignition.
Yeah. This is like a famed ship, and it's just sitting there.
Yeah, not to mention, it seems like it's kind of in a shipyard.
Yep.
So if it's in a shipyard, why aren't the keys locked up, and why aren't the doors locked? And if it's a junkyard, how is it still so functional to the point where anybody can just walk in and turn it on and immediately starts running? Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it all makes too much sense when you put it that way.
Too much sense. Yeah. Okay. Next scene, we meet the mysterious Snoke. And we get some dialogue. I don't know. I can't be bothered with how boring it sounds. But anyways, yeah. So what do you guys think of Snoke?
Snoke just seems like a setup for the trilogy. That was his only purpose, was to remind you that, I don't know, the first movies are always just the intro movies. This is the main bad guy. Like, they already kind of introduced the idea that Kylo is, kind of on the fence of good or evil. Or I guess they do eventually in the movie. So I think the proof that he's the Empire, or the Emperor. He's playing the role of the Emperor in this movie, and that's all this was, to introduce him. So it's pretty weak. But I guess, like, in A New Hope, we didn't really know the big bad guy after the first movie, did we? We thought it was just Darth Vader.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
In hindsight, we know that Palpatine had 6 movies to he's not in A New Hope, right? But he's had 5 movies.
Yeah.
To establish his character and what his intentions are. But
Correct.
Snoke seems interesting. He seems. I mean, I want to know more about Snoke. Do you guys know anything about Snoke?
Not any more than I know about any of the other characters.
No, and the millions of fan theories are crazy. I've heard a fan theory that he's Jar Jar Binks. I've heard the crazy ones. It's really it's pretty funny. I've heard he's still Palpatine. Yeah, I
heard that he's Mace Windu.
If he was Jar Jar Binks, it'd be so absurd. It'd be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That would maybe be the only thing that could redeem in its entirety this whole trilogy.
Right.
Is if they were like, you know what? You don't think we're risky, Sonny?
Yeah.
We're going to make Jar Jar Binks the Sith Lord of the entire story.
That's amazing. That would be actually amazing.
When it's really interesting that they portrayed him as this giant hologram. So it just adds so many questions. I mean, they do such a good job dangling the carrot. I mean, we talked about even just the titles that they put out, like The Last Jedi. It's made to have a bunch of speculation. Mm-hmm. So I think this was intended to have a lot of anticipation and speculation about this character, because the first question, you're like, okay, how old is this guy? He looks like a weird immortal type of creature. And how big is this guy? He's huge, but he's a hologram, so he could be projected as big or small. So it begs so many questions. It's like, what is Snoke? Beyond who he is, what is he?
Yeah. Then let's see. Then next scene, we get some dialogue on the Millennium Falcon. Rey, bypass the compressor, and but somehow, something that's connected to the fucking cockpit, just removing it fixes the entire ship. I'm not gonna harp too hard on that, but it's just lazy. It's classic Star Wars, but it's also kind of just lazy. Come on, man, it's 2015. Give us something more than just taking a wrench and banging it on the fucking walls of the Millennium Falcon and being like, all right, done. It's all fixed.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is also the scene, correct me if I'm wrong, Sonny. One of the scenes I rolled in the movie was when BB-8 gives a thumbs up to Finn.
Yeah, with the fire, yeah.
Yeah, that was just weird.
That happened earlier. It's
cute, just, I guess, but just annoying.
That's another example of I feel like that's a joke that only we would get. I feel like Star Wars humor in the original trilogy is humor that is not specific to that time. And I think that's what I was trying to say earlier with Oscar Isaac's dialogue and in Finn's kind of dialogue itself. And that particular BB-8 joke is those are jokes that I feel like wouldn't be as funny in the past or in the future. And for those reasons, I feel don't really belong in Star Wars. Because as lame as the prequels were, they were just as lame then as they will be 100 years from now, right? But that's what makes them Star Wars, is because they're just Star Wars. That's it. They are just the way they are. And this is too much a product of our current time. What with
Are you saying thumbs up is very central to 2015 humor? And that's it.
No, but it feels it's not the action
2015.
itself, but it's the fact that they are doing that in a movie seems to be a product of our time. I don't think George Lucas would have tried to get R2-D2 to do a thumbs up if R2-D2 had the tools to do it.
Like a robot that's not able to communicate in a language we can understand, so it emotes in a physical way that audiences can understand better. Like it's not something George Lucas would have done, because the whole time R2D2 would just do beep 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 beep.
Yeah, and then like, kind of like waddle around, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of generally what I'm saying. I haven't thought about it too much, but that's in the ballpark.
Well, R2 is like his beeps, you know. His beeps would, tone of his beeps would tell you his mood.
Yeah. Well, and I like that BB-8 also does that. Because BB-8's a pretty legit robot.
Yeah, he's more mobile, which makes more. I mean, his design is so much better than R2D2.
Yeah. And in a weird way, like that's, I think, an acceptable manner of like upgrading the universe. Yeah. Is, you know, they obviously, they took some spiritual essence from R2D2 to create something new, but I feel like they created it new in a universally consistent manner, right? Like I don't feel like BB-8 was some creation in a marketing lab of like, how can we create new characters to sell toys? You know, I feel like it was something like that could have come up in the Star Wars universe organically.
But they're selling the shit out of those toys, though. Oh my God.
But and it also just doubles to be a great toy, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a toy, or something that was created for the purpose of being a toy.
I was just thinking, to your point, like one thing about A New Hope that I don't like as much, because it feels like it is in the Star Wars timeline, it is the equivalent of what it'd be like to be in the 70s, 3,000 years from now. Do you know what I mean? Like the way that everything is stylized, the ships, like the way the buttons are on the Death Star, it's just not what we perceive to be advanced technology, right? It just seems so what's the word I'm looking for? Archaic. And that's one of the things that growing up in the 90s, I think the idea of what it's like to live in the future advanced so much. Star Wars just seems so dated to me.
The original trilogy.
Yeah, the original trilogy with its set design, costume design, especially like think about the soldiers in the Empire working on the Death Star with their weird ass helmets and everything. It's very 70s-esque design, and that's one thing that didn't really work for me in the original series.
I mean, and they obviously took some stuff from that, right? They updated the stormtrooper helmets, and even those minor changes really made them look a lot more modern, right? Yeah. But for all of the protagonists, they decided, let's stay in the 70s. Let's stay in the 80s, right? Yeah. You could rationalize what the prequels did in terms of costume design as just being a product of them being on different planets, like in different places, right? When we went to Tatooine, we saw everything we know about Tatooine. But when they're on Naboo, that's a completely different planet than anything we'd seen in the original trilogy, right? And I definitely would have loved to have seen more of that in this trilogy. Don't have to go to all these brand new worlds, but at the same time, you like take us out of our comfort zone just a little bit, right? Like we don't have to see clones of planets we've already seen before, of like cultures and environments we've already seen before. So should I continue with the plot?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So I mean, continuing with this, they eventually fly to Maz Kanata's castle. But one of the things I just remember being interesting is that Han Solo, like despite his dialogue not being great, which is just kind of on par with Star Wars, it did seem better than everybody else's dialogue, and it just seemed, I don't know, he seemed the most authentic character. Like I feel like
you know,
come again.
He's the most developed, you know, so it kind of makes sense. I feel like that's what added a lot to the quality of his dialogue, is because there's a lot more weight behind when Han Solo says a line that's a lot cooler than when Rey says a line, you know.
I agree with you there, but I also like to take away from that point, Leia just was lame, right? Not only was her dialogue bad, like her acting was terrible. And she was not the same Leia in the same way that Han is the same Han. And I don't mean in places in their lives, in the characters' lives. I mean, like actually fully returned back to the role.
Right. He did a great job, Harrison Ford. Like he killed it as Han.
Honestly, if he wasn't in it, I would not like this movie. I think.
Wow.
I actually don't
Yeah.
like this movie already, right? But I would like hate this movie because it would have absolutely zero connection to anything from before, and we wouldn't have that grounding, that anchor element in this movie to at least keep it interesting for people like me.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So then we get the famous cantina scene remade. We get to see all the hits like Wolfman. I don't know, bug-eyed, ugly-ass alien, fat-ass alien with a hot bee on his side.
Right.
Yeah, and then we get Butthole Eyes, Maz Kanata.
I'm not even joking. Like, watching that character was very disturbing. Like, could they have not come up with any other design for a character? She looked like
Right.
an old prune. And
They're like, yeah, no, we want Yoda, something that looks like Yoda, but she's
Right.
female. She's
Yeah.
got to be female,
Yeah.
and then just make her different.
Like not green, but orange. We'll make her another like character, another color.
yeah. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
I mean, I liked her character. You know, I liked the role that the little role that she has. It's kind of like a fun add-in character. But like, I agree. Like, she just looked weird. I wish she just looked different.
But that's the thing. Like, I would normally agree that okay, cool. I like her character. She played the Oracle, the old wise woman that knows everything but won't fucking say anything of any importance.
Just a neutral party.
Yeah, but they just treat her as a plot device.
Yeah.
Like we're supposed. It's the fucking thing about this movie. It's like the same problem with Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, look, I'm giving you what I am, and you know that I'm better than everything else, so just accept it. All right, you don't have to dig into anything.
Right.
You don't have to look into it too closely. You just fucking shove it down your throat, eat it, and just shut up, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't have to have any real plot. We don't have to have any real character development. We just know that it's Star Wars. We should be thankful that Disney paid $4 billion to start up Star Wars again. And so whatever reverence they tell us we're supposed to have for some character, whatever background they're supposed to have that is so fucking important to us, we're just supposed to accept it and move on.
Right.
And Maz Kanata is a perfect example of that. Like a wasted opportunity. She's like, Lil Peter? What's her name? Lupita something or another, right? Yeah, she's great. And I thought she voiced the character really well, but like the first interesting thing to happen when Rey grabbed the lightsaber, and she's like, "How did you get that lightsaber?" And she's like, "Another story for another place." And I'm like, "Fuck!"
Yeah.
God damn it. Okay, finally something original happens, and you're just gonna withhold it from me? Like, god damn. All right, well, what do you guys think?
I really like the cantina scene. I thought it was cool. You know, my favorite part of the games. If you guys ever played the games like Knights of the Old Republic and stuff, I loved the cantinas. I don't know why. Like, it just seemed like such a cool, like a really sleazy part of the galaxy. I thought it was cool. So I enjoyed having a cantina scene, and yeah, I mean that was awesome. The Rey acid trip when she grabs a lightsaber and she sees all that crazy stuff. Yeah, that was like super interesting. I don't want them to blow their load like in the first movie. I don't mind, dangling the carrot a little bit. I know there's 3 movies coming, so it's okay. I'm excited to learn more.
Is the lightsaber scene a part of this overall?
Yeah, I mean that's what happens it's in the basement of the cantina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happens at the end of the cantina.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part of this entire scene. Whatever. I mean, in my mind, I thought of the Knights of the Old Republic. I don't know if that's what you're alluding to, Jason, but you see all those knights, I guess, standing in front of a burning building or something like that. Which I was like, like Sunny. I was like, tell me more about this, and then we get sucked right back in, and it's a tease.
Yeah. We do get to see more about Finn, like trying to get off the planet, and then him and Rey have a moment.
You see how desperate he is to get away from war.
Yeah.
Which gives him, I think, a lot of depth in the scene too.
Well, I feel like, this was maybe the most we get to learn about his character.
Yeah, because he likes Rey, and he met this famous smuggler guy. They got off, and he's still like willing to walk away from everything because he's just like, no, I don't want to fight.
Yeah.
Just trying to convey how much violence he's seen in the First Order. That's like all I could really get from that. It must have been that bad to where this dude is trying any way he can to get out of the situation. But even then, it was just so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I cared more about the characters, this scene would be like doubly
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah.
Like, because I think the scene itself was pretty good,
Mhm.
but it just didn't have the emotional weight behind it to like give it the punch that I think it could have had. Yeah, considering that he's already kind of been on his path, and she like just got a job offer from Han Solo, right? So she's kind of already somewhat on her own path, even though she still kind of wants to go back to Jakku. Okay, let's see. Then the First Order comes and attacks. We get another fight scene. Chewie kicks some ass. Han kicks some ass. Homeboy picks up a lightsaber and is somehow able to hold his own. And then we get.
And
Go
then
ahead.
he gets for a couple seconds, then he gets beat down by
Yeah.
the stormtrooper, and then Han has to save his ass.
Right. And then we see the First Order use the Death Star, Starkiller Base, against not one, not two, but 5 different planets.
Yeah.
Simultaneously.
Wait, one of them like holds a Senate, right, or something like that. They're trying to destabilize the galaxy. I think they effectively destroy where the Senate is. The Republic capital of Hossein Prime.
Okay.
And a portion of the Republic fleet gets destroyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, see, it was poorly communicated to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
the only weight of that scene is a lot of innocent people are dying, but we don't know what the significance of their death is. And it's almost an insult to those poor souls that died that we don't know why they died. So
at least in A New Hope, we knew the name of the planet, and we knew somebody from that planet, right?
And the reason they attacked that planet is because they thought, or Leia told them that was where the base was, right? And it was kind of a show of their power.
Yeah, so it was even more fucked up, right? Because
Right.
it wasn't just them flexing nuts.
Right.
It was them like playing a trick on Leia, using it as and then following up on it anyways.
Which we know now from Rogue One. They know exactly what the power of that machine was, and Tarkin just was fucking around with. He's so evil, man. He's such an evil character, and I think Hux tries his best to be Tarkin, but I mean, you
except he
can't
looks
really-
like a 15-year-old kid. He looks even younger than Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Then and then we also see him capture Rey.
Right.
And then we get to see Leia and Han again.
They had the reunion. Yep.
And Jesus Christ, was that scene bland?
Yeah, that was not like that. Could have been such a great reunion scene, and it just fell flat.
It was literally like they parted ways after Return of the Jedi and hadn't seen each other since. Like he knocked her up, and she gave her kid away to Luke or to Snoke, and then that was it.
Well, I just don't like that you never really understand why they're not together. They were like the couple, the it couple from the last of the original trilogy, and then suddenly they're just not. And this reunion's supposed to be, you're supposed to feel something, and I don't know. It's just like, what's their deal?
Do they not imply it's because of what happens to their child? Like it's some of the falling out might have been due to Kylo.
Yeah.
Is it, or is it the fact that he wanted to still be a nerf herder smuggler? Is it?
Well, we don't know, right? We don't really know, but you assume the more. I mean, they play some of the emotional music behind it, and you assume that some of it's due to the differences in opinion they have about their child, and maybe one of them takes more blame for the path that he chose.
Yeah, it seems like that's the case.
Yeah,
that there was a falling out as a result of that. But we still don't know what happened to Ben, other than that he joined the dark side, and he was seduced by Snoke.
Yeah.
Oh. Let's see what. Then we get them plotting to how to destroy the Death Star, to which Han, being the only person who seems like he actually gives a fuck, was like, "Oh yeah, we've done this before. There's got to
Yeah.
be some weakness.
Right.
Or he basically said what we all were thinking in the audience. Was like, that's just another Death Star. Or he was
Yeah.
like, yep, it's just another Death Star.
Thanks,
yeah.
Han. Thanks for letting us know that we're not all fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Then we see R2D2, and good thing C-3PO was there to tell us that there's no way R2D2 is going to wake up. He hasn't been awake since Luke left, and there's no way that he can change the rest of the map. It's just impossible
Yeah.
that he will wake up and give us anything other than telling us how his sleep was.
Maybe threaten him to, use his body for spare parts, and that'll wake his ass up.
Wake your fucking ass up. Yeah.
Smug ass robot. Fucking slap him across the face.
Okay, then we have maybe the best scene of the entire movie. Mary Sue against Baby Driver and Babyface Driver, yeah. And then somehow, and we get them in a staring contest. I thought this was brilliant. This Force staring contest where they're pretending to use the Force, but they're really trying not to shit their pants.
Yeah.
Well, I thought was brilliant.
So I can't tell if you really like it or not.
Did you just wait, Sonny? Do we jump? You skipped the death of Han Solo.
No, that's not yet.
No. Spoiler alert, dude.
Yeah, dude,
Oopsies.
jeez.
Oh, my bad. This Ford.
This is when she forced. This is right before she forced. Okay, I won't get to there yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to skip ahead either.
No.
So you really like this scene, Sonny?
No, I fucking hate this scene. Are you kidding me? The minute he takes off the mask, I wanted to start blurting out laughing, but I knew it would ruin the experience for other people, so I didn't. Then, yeah, just somehow watching him constipated, staring at her, and then watching her constipated, staring back at him, and then trying to out-constipate each other to get the other one to leave him alone. I thought it was just so lame. It's
You've
like
no respect for the Force.
well, dude, when you see Yoda use the Force, like to capture Force lightning, or to like take something that was thrown at him and then using like Tai Chi Force techniques to diffuse that energy, that is using the Force in a way that the audience can at least understand. This is it's like imagining what fish are talking about in a fish tank when they're just like staring at each other, right? Like that's
a
how
great analogy.
that's how empty it is. Like they could literally anything could literally be happening, and we're just supposed to read from the redness in their face and how long it's been since they last took a breath, like how hard they're using the Force. Like they are forcing really hard right now, guys. You don't even know how hard they're forcing.
That didn't bother me as much as her little dialogue when all that's going down. When she's like, "You're afraid," that was like, well, who the hell are you, man? She suddenly like, yeah, who the hell are you?
Yeah, exactly. Then Babyface Driver goes to complain to Snoke, and Snoke scolds him. And then we get Daniel Craig getting mind tricked by Mary Sue.
Yeah, first try, Mary Sue. Yeah,
First try, Mary Sue. Yeah.
Is that actually Daniel Craig?
Yeah, that's Daniel.
It is Daniel Craig. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, and then we get another primo example of jokes that I don't think will hold up as well as they could, and that's when Kylo returns to try to see Mary Sue and finds that she escaped, and he's like carving up the whole chair because he's a petulant child.
Yeah.
And then those other two stormtroopers, they walk by, and then they see that's what's happening, and then they just turn around and walk away. Like that's just not to me. That's just not the Star Wars kind of sense of humor.
Oh my god! Like, what is the Star Wars sense of humor? Like, it's just a funny little joke. These stormtroopers are afraid of what's going to happen. They turn around. It's just a genuine little laugh. I don't know why that's even like why you feel like you have to define Star Wars humor to such a degree where like that scene is going to be a problem.
Well, it's just after I had already got upset with the movie, every little thing like this that came out just screamed at me like, "Hey, this is new Star Wars, right? This is us. This is the Star Wars for your generation, right? So laugh with us while we make jokes that are like exactly what George Lucas thought would be funny when he created Jar Jar." But I don't know what else to say.
All right, let's move on then.
Yeah.
Then we get back to the main base. They're plotting about how to destroy the Star Killer base, and Finn somehow knows about a weakness with the thing, despite being like, I don't know, a janitor or something like that,
I will
working
say-
sanitation.
This weakness is more believable than the weakness with the Death Star, because he's essentially like, all right, we got to go to this area and pretty much blow up this whole spot up. You know what I mean? Rather than just one little spot and you have to hit it precisely. But it just seems more believable. I think they understood the lesson from A New Hope, and they're like, all right, we got to give the audiences something more believable on how to destroy this fucking behemoth of a planet.
Sure.
Well, I
We
mean,
can give
hopefully
him that credit.
after Galen Urso died, they're just like, all right, no more tricks around here. Nobody's messing with the plans. No secret little passages. Like, you know, they really cracked down on their engineering. I think after the first couple of Death Stars blew up.
Cool. Then we see Finn and Poe share a loving embrace. That only two straight men could appreciate. then Han and Leia have another awkward conversation, we'll call it, before they take off to get onto Starkiller Base. Then
you kind of got a vibe that it was a goodbye, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, they get onto Starkiller Base. They confront Captain Phasma. Finn does what Finn does and overacts, and then they throw Captain Phasma into a trash compactor, which is, very family friendly entertainment.
Very original story again.
Yeah. Then
Great call.
the fighters are attacking Starkiller Base from above. They catch up with Rey, who didn't need rescuing this whole time.
Yeah.
So what happens next? Oh, okay. Then they go out into that room that really you have to wonder why it's there in the first place. And Han and Ben have a lengthy conversation where I just don't get it. Like, I have no idea what's going through Adam Driver's mind. He's just got this crying face the whole time, and it's really hard to tell what this moment means to him.
Why is that hard to tell? I mean, it seemed pretty straightforward to me.
I think he needs to cut his ties to his family, and I mean, not just in a sense with communication, but he literally has to kill his past to start his dark future, and that's what he struggles with. And we'll obviously talk about this a little bit later, but I think we see it hinted in the trailer for The Last Jedi as well.
Well, okay, here's what I mean. I think if you read the dialogue, I think it's pretty clear what he's trying to say. Like, he's struggling with having to kill his past in order to embrace his future. But the way he acts is so conflicting. Like, in one moment he looks sad, in another moment he looks sarcastic, in another moment he looks angry, and then he keeps rotating through those three emotions while delivering all of these lines, to the point where it's hard to tell if he's acting or if he's trying to trick his dad or what is happening.
And I would say one thing is you really see Ren's naivete in the scene, because the one person he looks up to the most is Darth Vader, right? Anakin. And Anakin becomes Anakin.
That much we know.
Because Padme was taken from him without her life was taken, right? And that's what eventually pushes him to the dark side.
No,
her death.
The threat of her dying and the fact that he turns to the dark side to save her, that's what makes him change.
Right. So Ren's understanding of, I think Ren was completely tricked by Snoke and is a pawn in Snoke's scheme to a greater extent than Anakin was to Palpatine. Is that right?
That's what it seems like.
Wait, you're saying that like Snoke has Kylo more whipped than the Emperor had Darth Vader?
Yeah, I feel like Darth had more say in in his decision to go to the dark side, whereas Ren was easily more easily manipulated.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, if you watch the original episode 1 through 3, Anakin, or I guess 2 is really where a lot of that begins. But it's a slow burn, but he definitely gets manipulated pretty easily by Palpatine. And just the promise of possibly understanding a way to maybe save his loved one by a guy that, as far as he's concerned, isn't Force sensitive. Right. Got him to change and kill a bunch of younglings.
I guess he did murder a bunch of children.
I
completely forgot about that. Yeah.
And at this point, Kylo Ren, we don't like. He's already pretty much crossed over. He's not like he's a major player in the Empire, whatever they call it in this movie.
Yeah. All right. So
First Order.
That note,
First Order.
Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. But then moving on, we get the conclusion of the space battle and the epic lightsaber duel between Finn and Ren and Rey and Ren.
Yeah. Which was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, it was fun to watch, but by this point in the movie, I don't understand how Finn can hold his own.
Agreed.
Against Ren, and I guess upon rewatching it, like them trying to imply that she's pretty skilled on her own, especially with the stick, I can maybe understand her holding her own, but then at the same time, if you want to believe that, then you also have to lose a little bit of respect for Kylo Ren in the first place, right? Like that he's way more adolescent.
He's shot in his side. Chewbacca shot him.
But still, like,
yeah, it's just a laser blast to the side, like to your hip. Like, what's the big deal? It's only like a major party walking. You're like, what's the big deal, right?
Well, it's not like he fucking made his own lightsaber, right? So you would think that he would know how to use that shit blindfolded if he needed to.
And I mean, to Sonny's point, he did get outforced with reaching for the lightsaber, like
by a girl. Okay, let's be real. Okay.
Well, to defend the movie, Rey is pretty bad with the lightsaber, and what I liked about it was she just kept like stabbing forward. That's all she did. She kept thrusting. That was her only move. So if you go back and watch, she has no other move besides like just throw this in his general direction. So they show her being like pretty bad, yeah. And also, I don't think Kylo Ren wanted to actually hurt Rey in that scene. He's like trying to get her to come over with him. He feels lonely in the dark side. He's trying to get some more people with him.
Wait, are you theorizing, or is that for
That's
real?
just the way I kind of viewed it. As like, why would he hurt? He wants to train her. So he's not going to kill her.
Interesting.
He's already killed one family member.
Are you assuming that Rey's related to Kylo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but then Rey just closes her eyes and somehow gets in touch with the Force, or maybe starts channeling midichlorians or something like that, and then just denies him. She's like, I have a teacher of the Force. His name was Han Solo. And
yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah.
That's
the effects were great. I mean, that whole scene in the snow was really cool. It looked beautiful.
With the planet breaking in between their legs was pretty dope.
Yeah.
In between them. How poetic.
So
am I right?
So
poetic. Cool. Yeah, and then luckily everybody survives. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any more of these great movies to watch. So Ren survives.
Yeah.
Chewie, Rey, Finn, Phasma somehow escapes the trash compactor and gets on a ship and gets the fuck out of there. And then next scene, we're back on whatever planet they were on, and R2-D2 wakes up. Oh my god!
Perfect timing.
He's awake. The thing that we were told would never happen happened. So our minds must be blown, and we must be so thankful. What a fucking twist!
But yeah, dude, you're missing the one thing that really irked a lot of fans too was Leia and Rey hugging instead of Leia and Chewbacca. Chewbacca never got his closure after Han Solo died.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that just didn't make any sense.
He's probably free now to go home.
Well, and do Rey and Leia know each other at this point? Have they ever met? Have they shared a scene together? because as soon as she arrived, Rey got abducted by Kylo, and then
Yeah, that's true.
I guess
now they're here
they
together.
haven't met.
Okay. Then Rey says goodbye to Finn. Rey says goodbye to Leia, and and then we see Rey head over to that planet with a single island with a single person on it.
Beautiful shot though. Beautiful
Oh my
location.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
What? Come on, man! It's a beautiful landscape. You can at least admit
So
that.
jaded by.
Sure. No. It was great.
It's okay.
I didn't care for the helicopter shot at the end, because that was also weird. Like, I don't think we've seen shots like. Huh?
Yeah, that didn't look like a Star Wars shot, like a moving aiming shot.
Yeah, telescoping shots, yes, especially in some of the more CGI heavy scenes or space scenes, but stuff like that, no. So that was a little off-putting. But then that's it. Did you guys see the after credit scene? It was amazing.
It tells you who Rey's parents are.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of J.J. Binks' directing on this whole movie?
Oh, Jar Jar Abrams. No, not really. I wasn't too impressed.
He played it very
It did
safe.
look like Star Wars.
Yeah.
I know that, but didn't feel like Star Wars. It felt like Disney.
I thought it was pretty. Yeah, it looked like Star Wars. Felt like Star Wars. So yeah, I think he did a good job. He had some lens flares in there, but it's J.J. Abrams, so you're gonna get a couple.
I mean,
but,
I want to say a lot of this felt a lot more like Star Wars because of the score than any of the actual filmmaking. I think the music puts you right back in the universe more than anything else. Well, maybe the scenes in the early in Jakku maybe put you right back in there. But I mean, don't you think the score is something that is the most iconic thing about this trilogy, this franchise?
Yeah, it's definitely the most consistent thing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Well, it's like what I was saying about Jurassic Park. It feels like another character in the movie. You hear it. It's another element of the movie.
So so that's the end of the movie, guys. Do you guys have any other thoughts about Force Awakens and A New Hope you want to mention before we talk about the trailer and Battlefront?
No, I mean, I think we covered pretty much all of it, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just glad we finally got this off my chest. I haven't gotten to rant for a long enough period of time continuously about Force Awakens, and
so does
I
that mean
think
you
I can finally put it to bed.
Yeah,
And now you have it recorded, and you can listen to it every December before the new Star Wars movie comes out every single year till we all die.
Great.
Further on.
Sounds like a good plan.
It's funny, Sonny. I watched this with you in the theaters. I don't remember you walking out not liking it.
I remember explicitly telling you that I didn't like it, and you being like, "What the fuck? I loved it."
See, this is why eyewitnesses can't be trusted.
Yeah, this is terrible.
Terrible.
So I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember not liking it the minute I realized it was a remake, and the worst part is the trailer didn't even lead me on to believe that.
Right.
I honestly believed from the trailer that we were going to get something sweet, something new, something flashy, something we could sink our teeth into. And no, it was just an apology letter to the fans who don't need apologizing to. Because those... I mean, and look, count myself in. Like, I definitely ragged on the prequels maybe more than I ought to. Especially now that hindsight is 2020 and I can see what happens when you piss George Lucas off. Like, you think he will ruin your childhood? Just watch what Disney will do to your childhood.
Right. Well, I mean, I think criticisms of the episodes 1 through 3 are fair because that movie does not hold up. Those movies do not hold up. Maybe episode 3 does more than the other, but episode 1 is just a huge mess, and I don't think anyone would blame you for criticizing those movies.
I mean, you can criticize them, but like, I don't know.
Do you appreciate them now more after seeing Force Awakens? Do you appreciate the prequel? Yeah. So you go back and think of it very fondly.
What part of the Phantom Menace is redeemable, though?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you?
Oh well, there's not much. No, there isn't much in Phantom Menace. I would say like the set pieces, the new universe that it introduced us to,
Yes.
and the characters, however flawed they introduced us to, I think were awesome. Like Darth Maul, it's a shame that Darth Maul wasn't a bigger part of the rest of the trilogy because he was awesome. Qui-Gon Jinn, awesome. Obi-Wan, like a little hot-headed, but it was nice to see a young Obi-Wan not be like old and grizzled already, right? Just 30 years younger.
Yeah.
So he was awesome. Yeah, Anakin, the character, like the kid, have rose-tinted glasses because I was that age when I saw the movie, so I didn't think he was a shit actor like everybody else did. I thought he was fine. And Natalie Portman, love Natalie Portman.
Yeah, but like you go back and it's the same movie again. It's the same criticism. The whole criticisms you have of this movie can also be applied to Phantom Menace.
I think,
except the acting is worse in Phantom Menace, and so is the dialogue. So,
I mean, with the exception of originality, like we can, I can criticize. You're right. I could take a lot of the same criticism.
Yeah, I mean, it's this broad strokes. It's a lot of the same. It's like this kid on a desert planet that has to learn the Force, watches his master die in front of him, has to confront it, and it turns out a little differently. But like broad strokes purposes, this seems a lot like these movies too. I mean,
it's a lot less like New Hope than this is, though.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. But still, it's still there.
Yeah,
I just think it's funny. Like
that's. Yeah, I mean, it's not even an excuse, and I'm not trying to defend any points of view here, but that was constructed purposefully by Lucas based on his stupid ring theory. Like he wanted these movies to be reflections of each other, like in that sense. So a lot of them do have those broad strokes that are very similar, and it's done by design.
Yeah.
So speaking of trailer, let's discuss the trailer for The Last Jedi.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Come on! This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
And that was the trailer for The Last Jedi. Thoughts, guys?
It looks like they're really positioning. Okay, two things. It looks like they're really positioning this movie as a Kylo versus Rey, but that's Captain Obvious. And number two, I'm really afraid of the Empire Strikes Back scenario where it's going to be Yoda training Luke, but it's just Luke training Rey for like half the movie. And there's a lot of vibes of that already within the trailer, and you see it. So that really scares me. So I think Sunny's going to hate this movie too.
I remember watching the first trailer and thinking, "Holy shit, this is going to be terrible."
Yeah.
And then watching this latest trailer and completely changing my mind. I'm rewatching the original trailer right now, and I'm trying to figure out exactly why. Well, I think it was because of empty statements like the Jedi have to end.
Yeah.
And it seemed like controversial for the sake of being controversial without like any real substance. Yeah, but having considered all of it, it definitely does seem like we might learn some new things about the Force. People are thinking that this has something to do with a plot line from the Clone Wars TV show about how both the Jedi and the Sith have incomplete notions and understanding of the Force, and something in between is what's to be strived for, but both sides have forgotten.
Yeah.
So it does seem like there's maybe some elements of that kind of Force lore and mythology that might come up in this. So for that, I'm kind of interested, because at least that'll be something new that isn't that ideally won't be ham-fisted in to the overarching story.
Like you're saying, like Luke's history in between the Return of the Jedi and now the Last Jedi is what I'm most interested about. What happened to those kids that he was training? What did Kylo Ren do? I mean, we keep seeing the images of that burning building. What happened there?
Right.
Who is he talking about with this power that he's never felt before? Because we're assuming the only person he's ever felt a power that strong was his father. And who is it now? Is it Snoke? Is it Kylo? Is it Rey? We don't know, right? I mean, those are all interesting questions.
No, I think he was talking about Ben.
Oh, is it Ben?
That raw, untamed power or whatever.
Kylo/Ben, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the person who you saw the raw talent or whatever, raw power that didn't scare him. No.
I think it looks awesome, and I think it looks like pretty complex. It looks like there's hints that Luke doesn't want to train Leia, which we kind of knew, because that he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. But you know that Luke doesn't want to train Leia, and it looks like he's going to be kind of pushing her versus Yoda actually training. It seems like it's going to be. What's so funny?
Sorry.
It's still the same story beat.
No. I mean, I agree, but it's instead of like Yoda training Luke, it's going to be, I think, Luke like not wanting to train Leia. So not wanting to train Rey. So it's going to be kind of the reverse, which looks and ultimately going to Kylo Ren. That's going to be like the main cliffhanger for the movie. I think is what does that mean? You know, is that she joining the dark side, or does that mean she's going to bring him over to the light? But I like that idea that you're talking about, Sonny. I like the idea of it being something in between. But it doesn't look like we're going to get a whole lot of her backstory. It looks like we're going to get more from Luke than Rey.
Yeah. I'm half expecting her to get there and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this Jedi Master named Luke." And he says, "Luke, I know not of whom you speak." And then starts rummaging through all of her shit and trolling her until he reveals that, "Oh, wait, I'm Luke. I'm the one who's going to teach you the ways of the Force." And then we'll see Finn. He'll go to Cloud City, but it won't be regular clouds. There'll be weed clouds. And he'll get super high with his boy, Lance Calrissian. And
Wait, are you like implying that the two black guys in this universe are just going to be smoking weed?
No. It won't be Lando Calrissian. It'll be his white equivalent, Lance Calrissian. And they'll hang out until Kylo Ren shows up and says, "I would be pleased if you joined us." And then Rey will swoop in and have to fight Kylo Ren in front of Snoke. Yeah.
What about the images of these creatures that we've seen? Is it the same feeling you get, the things you didn't like about stuff that they're ham-fisting into The Force Awakens with BB-8? Is it similar with all these new creatures that they're showing us? I mean, we
Like
saw
that little thing on the
Yeah.
dash ornament.
Or-
yeah, and that
Yeah.
snow fox.
Yeah,
I think the last
I
time
highly doubt that dash ornament speaks or
Anything.
communicates.
Yeah.
Or probably just communicates through squeaking like all cute, and then everybody somehow understands what the fuck he's talking about.
Right.
But that's purely for selling toys.
100%.
That Arctic fox looks kind of cool.
Yeah. Looks like
I don't know.
Eevee that transformed into the
Yeah.
Snow Vaporeon or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Jason?
I mean, I'm gonna watch it. I think it looks
Yeah.
cool, and I'm gonna go in with an open mind too. Just see what happens. Let's see what happens.
I definitely will go with an open mind. And as much as people like us complain about this, it's the same people that'll continue to go to the movies and help make this the most successful movie in the history of the universe, which is kind of different about the next topic I want to discuss. Star Wars Battlefront. Sonny, you've been playing a lot of this game, right?
Yeah.
It's been in the news a lot. And here's an example of people actually saying stop the bullshit. And EA's stock value actually went down because a lot of people stopped playing the game. There was a huge uproar on social media, online, Reddit, online everywhere. But in that case, the consumers actually spoke up, and it looks like there were some changes. So can you give us a little bit of your thoughts on Star Wars Battlefront?
Yeah, man. So Battlefront plays a lot like the first one. Like the textures, graphics all look really pretty much the same, but we got a shitload more maps, a lot more characters, more eras, more heroes, more vehicles, all that kind of good stuff. I'm not gonna go over like all the big differences between the two, so I'll just jump into everything that I like and don't like about it. I like the class system. It's pretty cool. It's a lot easier to switch between combos of guns and star cards and power-ups and stuff that you want when you can separate them into classes than it is to maintain those sets of cards together. You also have a lot richer of a menu in a multiplayer game to swap out things. So the only thing you can't do is if you get an achievement, you can't claim the reward to the achievement while you're in game. But if you do have like any of your star cards, any of your gun upgrades can be equipped at any point in between lives in a multiplayer game, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, because having to actually quit out of the whole lobby and multiplayer matchmaking shit just to do that is really annoying.
So you were able to experience this game before the loot box, before they changed their policy on that, before and after? Do you have, or have you only seen that? Okay.
No, so if I recall correctly, so I bought the early access pass, which is just like 3 days extra play, and I got a couple free star cards. I would say it feels like I got rewarded less after all of this happened, and I'm pretty sure that's backed up by data and what EA said they would do.
Yeah.
I definitely feel the gambling aspects of the game. Like when you hit that loot box. So the Trooper loot box, 4,000 credits for 5 cards. If you get a duplicate of any cards that you already possess, you get anywhere from 200 to 800 back. But 800 only if it is like a high level or a rare card. But you only get one of those in a loot box. So pretty much the maximum amount you'll ever get back from a $4,000 or 4,000 credit loot crate is 1,200.
Oh.
1,200 credits back. So you can spend that much, completely roll the dice on the kinds of cards you'll get back, some of which will be duplicates, some of which you just don't give a shit about.
Right.
And then you'll barely get any money back for those duplicates. So that is a fucking bummer, and that's, I think, a big part of the gambling aspect. I think something that doesn't get said enough by other people is that they whine about how, you need these star cards to be any good at the game. That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm plenty good at the game with or without like all the highest level star cards. And not to mention the upgrades that you pay for in order to upgrade your star cards. The upgrades themselves are shit. Yeah. It's like, oh, this item, it will recharge every 8 seconds. Then you get one upgrade. It's 8.25 seconds or some bullshit like that, right? Like none of those things end up really adding up to matter. Because I highly doubt most people use all of their star cards like as fast as they recharge, right? And get the maximum utility out of them anyways. The guns also feel weaker, or the health seems stronger because it's like harder to actually snipe people with anything. The heavy is like a useless class because they can take a decent amount of damage, but their guns blow. And then they move so slowly when they have like a bigger gun out that it's I don't know.
Have you had a chance to play as one of the heroes?
Yeah, the heroes are great.
Is it easier than the first one?
A little bit, in the sense that you can still again customize some of their moves and some of the upgrades to those moves. It is a lot better because now your health recharges regardless of whether you're in a vehicle or you're a hero. Regardless of character. So that's really awesome. So like you can like go ham in a small room and then rest, and eventually your health will recover. And then the extra heroes that they add are just a lot more fun, and it's a lot easier to play with them because you're not trying to camp around the spawn point for those power-ups. One of the biggest downsides to the game, one of the main reasons why I haven't strongly recommended you buy this, Jason, is that in Battlefront 1, you and I could be in the same party, so we'd hear each other's audio, right?
Yeah.
But you and I could also then establish each other as partners in a game, such that when we died and the other person was alive and not being shot at, you could spawn on that person.
Right.
The spawning system in Battlefront 2 is completely different. They set up squads of 4. So when you die and you pick your class and you're ready to go back in the game, you get put into a batch of 4 people, 4 slots. And you get into the game under one of 2 conditions. 1, all 4 slots get filled up with other people waiting to go back into the game. Or 2, 10 seconds have passed. So whichever happens first, then you get back into the game. This has the added benefit of always having you in some kind of squad where you can work together with other people. And get extra points when you kill people or do objectives because you're all doing it as part of a squad. It has the downside of the squads being continually dynamic so that you and I can't spawn on each other unless we're dead at the same time. And in general, nobody seems to give a shit about really any of the objectives in any of the objective-based missions. Or helping out your squad, so it ends up just being like a death match and just trying to keep the game going long enough to be in a death match. So the squads are also kind of useless. So to me, that's actually a pretty big bummer because there's no point in like just being able to talk to your friends while you're playing the game. You want to see their character, you want to get their back, you want them to get your back and shit, So if you don't have that, it's kind of lame.
Man, this sounds like a huge downgrade from
Sounds terrible.
Not even
all in all,
Battlefield
like
1,
I've invested quite a bit of time just because it's fun to zone out with. I'm getting pretty decent with the specialist sniper class. And I just love headshotting these bitches left and right. God, they're so bad. So in that sense, like I like playing it, but it's so strange how painful it is to sometimes play it. Because the number one fucking problem with this game right now is lag. And I'm talking like crippling, want to smash my controller kind of lag.
Wow.
There's an airship you can be in, and I was in the airship turret because this is the kind of airship that just flies around.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to shoot, and the camera is stuttering, and I'm like getting a headache just trying to look without the reticle, like, and try to shoot somebody.
That is
and that's when you're not trying to snipe or walk around the level, and then you keep walking up the same ramp 5 times because the lag hasn't fucking caught up with the server or whatever.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the worst reasons. So like I actually legitimately if I'm not doing good, I will feel really bad playing the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like normally you just kind of feel like, oh man, I suck, and you'll just turn it off. Like I actually feel like shit when the game treats me this badly and I'm also doing badly. Like, what the fuck am I doing with my time? Like contributing back to this bullshit system.
Yeah, I could be playing No Man's Sky right now. You know,
Hey,
Yeah.
get out of here with
Instead
that
of grinding
shit.
on Battlefront, let's grind on No Man's Sky. That sounds like a great trade-off.
It's funny how far this franchise has come down because this is essentially Battlefield with a Star Wars skin. And
Yeah.
I used to play a ton of Battlefield 4, and that game was hella fun. And
Yeah.
it did not have these problems you're describing. Like I never felt like, I mean, it was the grind, but it was the grind of every shooter game at that time. And it didn't seem like my efforts were wasted. I didn't feel terrible once I finished the game. And the matches were legitimately just fun. I'm sure
they really.
there are other sides to that discussion, but from my personal experience, I had a lot of fun playing Battlefield 4, and I think you too, Sonny, would have had a great time with that.
All they had to do to make this game successful was do everything they did in the first game, add some more heroes, and make it easier to get heroes. And that's it. I mean, I think the first game is pretty damn awesome. The graphics are awesome. The gameplay is great. I mean, there's some lag or whatever, but yeah, it's a really good game. The only thing I don't like about the first one is just it's impossible to get a hero, and you don't really. I mean, at least I'm not very good with them, so I don't survive very long when I finally do. But yeah, that's all I had to do, and it seems like they changed so many aspects of the game. Like it just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to like keep buying stuff just to like upgrade, I mean, it just seems so lame.
I will say, thankfully, I don't care about any of the heroes that you can upgrade to buy. Like playing Darth Vader or Luke or Leia or I forget who the other bad one is, or the Emperor. And I think Chewie actually might be in the list. Whatever. Like, those characters are actually kind of lame. Yoda is fucking sweet. Darth Maul is sweet. And both of those you can play out of the box.
Awesome.
Bosk, you can also play out of the box.
Nice.
And I think Boba Fett, too. Those guys, they're all fucking sweet. So at least you don't have to worry about grinding for those things. The things you do end up having to worry about grinding for are crafting parts so you can build upgrades to your star cards. Luckily, they've upped the amount of money that you earn per game, but people have found that it'll still, before this latest upgrade, people found that it would take 2,100 hours or $4,000 to buy everything in the game.
Wow.
Even after getting all of the achievements and all of the in-game upgrades that you can already earn.
Wow.
So
Has EA mentioned any other changes coming to the game, or is this the final product, what you're playing with right now?
not sure. They said they'd bring back the micropayments to buy crystals so that you can buy loot boxes. They said they'd bring that back later. Not sure when or if that's going to happen. They said they would look into doing cosmetic things that you could buy with micropayments. Not sure if that's going to happen.
Which I don't really hold against EA. That's always been a microtransaction in a lot of games dating even 4 or 5 years ago. Just upgrades to your guns and kits and things like that. Other games have done it, so I don't really hold that against EA.
No, but it's almost kind of fucked up that they made the first Battlefront without it and skimped on everything. Like made you buy DLC and only shipped it with 4 maps.
Right.
It almost seems like with the intention of getting people to really like Battlefront and then get their hopes up saying, oh, you know what? We'll just repackage Battlefront 1 with more maps and they'll buy it. Yeah. But then also said, well, no, the rest of our company's business model is micropayments. So let's sucker them in with a nice game that they like to play that was overrated and overpriced. And then let's give them a totally good value, but then make them earn for everything else they want.
That model works when your buy-in is maybe $1.99 or 99 cents, but it doesn't work when your fucking buy-in is $60. You know what I mean? So
the thing I really don't understand about all this is how they can have the audacity to try to fleece people for so much money, only to release a new version of the game a year later.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be one thing if this was Steam and TF2,
right, where
they offer the game for $60, but you can play it solidly for 2 years straight, right? And actually build something that you can take with you. But
actually,
the shit only lasts within this game.
Isn't Team Fortress free?
Right, that's the other thing, right? Yeah. TF2 is also free. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into making a game that looks this good, because it does fucking look good. But yeah,
we'll see. I mean, consumers are speaking, so we'll see what happens.
Thankfully,
yeah. So overall, this is a hold. You wouldn't recommend your
Yeah,
friends
buy
to
Rocket
this?
League and
Buy
let's
Rocket
play
League.
Rocket League.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
probably do that. I got a voucher from PS Store so I can get that game.
Nice.
So, any other thoughts? We can wrap this up.
Yeah, man. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right,
Looking
guys.
forward to Last Jedi, man.
Yes.
Yeah,
Coming out
it's
in
gonna be
1
good.
week, so we're pretty pumped for that. Probably do a follow-up episode of The Last Jedi and review that movie. So,
For sure.
thanks for tuning in, guys. No Camps Podcast. You can email us at nocampspod@gmail.com. Twitter at nocampspod. You can find me on Twitter at acash992. Sunny?
SUNNY_Gunna, GONNA.
And Jason doesn't have one yet, but we'll make him get one in a year or two. But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week.
Sweet. See ya.
Bye.